Hey guys, this is not the most interesting run, but the circumstances of it were pretty interesting. This is 395. I'm going toward 44. This was the Chief's very first run. And think about this. He went from an urban environment to a rural environment, or a rural call way out in the middle of nowhere. We were at Station 1 and responded from there with Engine 51, and I went POV. It was Rob Gresham and the Chief in Engine 51, I believe. And they went by way of like Smith's Grocery, turned left by Station 2, and came in that way. I went straight by Rite Aid, came out 44 and turned right here. I remember that Chelsea was on the call. I think there was a brush truck, Engine 51. It seems like a tanker, my POV, and maybe something else. But we had all kinds of people. What it was just a routine little grass fire in a ditch. And the lady was trying to burn some junk in a ditch up here. And I'll show you the house in just a minute. And it got up in the tree lines, cedar trees. It wasn't anything horrible, but it was a massive resource dump on this little fire because we didn't know what it was. And I pulled up first and called command and stuff. And she was all embarrassed, which is very common for this kind of thing. But I tell people, don't be embarrassed. The only time you should be embarrassed is if you don't call the fire department until 10 minutes too late. But we pulled up. This is the angle that Chief and Rob would have had of Engine 51 pulled up here. It was actually this driveway right here, and she burned, and this whole area here up in the trees and everything burned. The trees weren't flaming, but underneath it all was. So when 51 pulled up, I just commanded them. I got run over by a car. I commanded them to just use the water cannon, use the deck gun, because you can't drive a truck back to town with some of the water out of the tank. It's either you drive it full or you drive it empty. So I thought, well, if we're gonna pull a little small line off this thing, we might as well just dump it. So if anybody was watching this, they would have thought, I don't know what they would have thought, because we just pulled up and instantly dumped the deck gun on there and grabbed some flapper tools and just totally killed this fire. It was like, I don't know, kind of like killing a housefly with a howitzer. But I can only imagine what the Chief was thinking coming from Newport, very first day, very first run. Then you go all the way through town, all the way out past Florida Tile and turn left, and Wild Drive and Corinth Christian Church and Birdie Store, and come down here. He probably wondered what he got himself into. But I asked Rob, so what was it like riding with the Chief on that call? Because we didn't know him, and everybody was trying to assess him, and he was trying to assess us. And he said it was creepy quiet. That was his exact adjectives to describe the ride. So anyway, that was the very first call for the Chief, and just a regular grass fire up in the trees a little bit, but no big deal. And on grass fires, a lot of times the dispatch, they ask them basic questions. Is it threatening a house? Is there anybody in the house? Is it in the tree line? And if it's in the tree line, then they tell us, we send a bigger response. And when you get there, it may or may not be a big deal, but dispatch did a good job. Everybody did a good job. And that was just a regular run from Highway 395 in Anderson County approximately 6 years ago.